Well, one of the things that Brian Kelly, I would say, correctly points out about Georgia are these tight ends, and the guy that he led with was uh, was Darnell Washington. I mean, that guy obviously is a real problem. Here's what Brian had to say. He said, "I think lethal is a good word talking about Georgia's tight ends." He said, "Darnell Washington is a large person, 6'7". I mean, there's nobody that really has favorable matchup against him. Then Brock Bowers, he leads the team in receptions. He's a Lombardi Award finalist. He says Todd Monken gets him involved in everything from handoff sweeps, excuse me, to I don't know if he's thrown a ball yet. Don't challenge him, but I'm sure he will. He's just a versatile player. He's a guy that can break games open. As talented as productive a tandem that you'll see. We talk a lot about Georgia's tight ends, and I don't want to like overdo it, but I think sometimes even that is not explaining to the public how good that duo is. Now, when Oscar Delp gets in there, if Eric Gilbert becomes a player that you need to really watch at Georgia, those guys will have their say in the future too. But Brock Bowers and Darnell are, as I would say, the question, I can't remember who asked the question, but lethal is about as good a word as you can use. Brock Bowers is dangerous with the ball in his hands at all times. I thought Georgia Tech, frankly, did about as good a job as you could do covering those two guys, and they were still trouble. I mean, Bowers had a touchdown uh, that he saved. He had the pass interference that was called against him, I think, which was just there was some strange calls over the weekend. But I've seen, when you're on the field for the games, you get used to guys. I mean, guys are my size or bigger. That's not a big deal. It's not new to me. Darnell is not. He is significantly bigger than everybody, not just in terms of height, but the ankle taping, man, like that scares me. I'm like, why does this guy need his ankles like that wrapped up? Like, what is he gonna hurt somebody? He's gonna like jump over somebody? Yeah, he is. And like I don't know how you stop them. So the the pass to Darnell that Stetson missed against Kentucky, that would have been a touchdown. You know, it's really Georgia stopping themselves more than anything else. And I was one thing that Kelee Ringo and I were talking about briefly. I'm not going to share all of our conversations, but when he did the autograph signing, was I was talking about Darnell and the way that he tapes his ankles, y'all, the socks go like up to his knees, and they're not pulled up like the NFL socks. Like this guy is a real challenging player to deal with. We've got books signed by Kelee. There's Listen, take advantage of this while you can. If you're in Athens, I want to show you something. This shirt right here from our friends at Red Zone, Nowhere to Run and Hide. That was from the Tennessee game. I don't know if y'all remember that. If you get the book there, whether it's signed or not, you're gonna have the capability of getting that shirt thrown in there for free. So our friends at Red Zone let me know about that. That this has just happened. So go into Red Zone, check it out. We've got books there as well. I don't have signed ones there this second, but work it out with Scott and Mindy, and we'll get you a signed one. You can get a shirt there too. We'll get that's not an issue. So if you're in the Athens area and you want that shirt thrown in for free, you can. I can't do the mailing back and forth. It's just a little bit too. So go to Red Zone, Clayton Street in Athens, downtown. That's where this is really really cool store. And I don't know how. Well, a couple things. First of all, if you're Georgia, you want to take advantage of the tight ends as much as you can moving forward. It feels like Georgia's not done that lately. That's what it feels like. I'm saying that acknowledging what the team has done. Uh, I'm saying that acknowledging all that Brock did this past week. It also ignores my comment. It feels like they haven't used him as much. It also ignores the run game and how challenging it is to deal with Darnell in the run game. These guys have just very quick math, DeKalb County math, 1,048 yards receiving in 12 games. That is 71 yards excuse me, 71 receptions. They have 6 total touchdowns. And that's in the receiving game. In the, Brock has 6 rushes for 93 yards and 3 touchdowns, 36-yard long. When he gets the ball, he averages about 7 yards. I'm sorry, he averages 15 yards a carry. Ladd McConkey leads the team in terms of carriers with multiple, with 3 or more runs. Ladd is going at 20 yards a clip. I part of this in talking like this now, y'all, makes me think we've not seen some of what Georgia's got in store for these next few games. I don't know if we're going to see it against LSU. I don't know. I mean, think back to the Orange Bowl and what this team did to Michigan. They had a trick play to score, I think, the first touchdown. It might have been the second touchdown. This is what DAWGSTRUCTION is good for as well. I can't remember if Kenny's toss to A.D. Mitchell was the second touchdown or not, but I think we could see a little bit more dynamic play from Georgia on the offensive side of the ball, not just not just from the team in terms of like production, but I think you're going to see a little bit more schematically that you've just not seen a lot of. I mean, Georgia has not been in a dogfight since Missouri. I mean, Kentucky, you want to say that? I mean, I was on the field for that deal. I don't know, man. I mean, like, again, go back to that whole discussion of, do you just kick the field goal to end it? I thought, by the way, and not that anyone necessarily cares, I thought Kirby was correct to go for it when he did on fourth down in the Georgia Tech situation. They were bailed out. That was not a good throw from Stetson. Oh, I'm also saying that I think Stetson will play better. He did not play well the way that you'd want him to against Georgia Tech. The weather was a real issue at Kentucky. So you've seen back-to-back games where Georgia's not been what they really would like to be throwing the ball. And I am going to look just real quick. Why can't I? Against Mississippi State, they threw. Oh, what? So sometimes I'm not real good at this, but against against State they ran for 179 yards. And Stetson threw for 250. Excuse me, threw for almost 300 with 3 touchdowns. I mean, he played pretty well, and that was really. It was not as cold as Kentucky in that game, but it was cold enough for some of us in the room. I mean, that was not a lot of fun. I'll tell you that right now. Yes, I can't do it by the game. Why can't I do it just by the game? Oh, here we go. So, yeah, 308, almost 300 yards throwing. That's not an insignificant margin for Stetson. And the tight ends are just something that over time they can really beat you up, not just in the run game, but in the passing game too. And they are the ultimate knight in chess, where they can do a lot of the moves other pieces cannot. If your queen is your straight up killer, it is and there's plenty of pawns on the offensive line, but it's the rooks and the knights that really can damage the other team. You're not thinking about the knights, and I think people think about Georgia's tight ends. They're sort of a queen knight combination in a way. I mean, they're really hard to deal with, and I think Brian Kelly's got it right when he talks about how they're lethal. I mean, that was the question. I remember on the call that the word lethal was used. He said, "I think lethal is a good word. Darnell is a large person." I mean, there's not There's nobody that has a favorable matchup against him. There's not. And by the way, we've seen Todd Monken maneuver these tight ends into a very tricky situation for the other side. I remember very clearly talking with former players, former quarterbacks at Georgia, talking about what you could do with multiple tight end sets and how it really puts the defense at a disadvantage. We don't always see that because everyone says tight ends, they're assuming you throwing the ball. That's not always the case. And with the way Georgia's run it lately, um, 264 against Tech, 250 against 247 against the Cats, 180 against State, 130 against Tennessee, 239 against the Gators, 192 against Vandy, 292 against Auburn. I mean, just the whole year, but particularly these last 4 games or 5 games, excuse me. They have just really outrun the other team, and yes, the tight ends, they're a reason for that. Anyway, hey, take advantage of that offer at Red Zone in Athens. You got to go downtown Clayton Street. You know where they are, downtown on Clayton Street, and check out Red Zone. Get a book there. You get the shirt for free. Tell them Dean sent you. Say hi to Scott and Mindy for me.